Hi everyone, it's Stephanie here and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be playing with some of the new July release products and I'm going to be creating a distress glaze background. I did this recently in another video and I created a watermelon background. So I wanted to use the same technique for this card, but this time we're going to be creating what looks like water because we're going to be using some mermaid stamps in a pool. So I thought it would be really cool to create the water with this technique since it gives a really cool result and you get something unique every time you do it. So what I'm doing first is I'm putting out some Distress Oxide inks on my craft mat. I have 4 different colors here, and I'm just smushing that color directly onto my craft mat. I'm then taking glossy alcohol ink cardstock. This is not Yupo paper. It does not work with Yupo paper. You do need to use glossy cardstock. And I'm just kind of dipping the cardstock with the glossy side down into that ink. And you can see I'm completely covering the front. I'm making a big mess. I'm covering the whole thing with a whole bunch of splotches of ink. And then in between each layer, I'm completely heat setting it with my heat tool. When doing this technique, that is the step that you need to make sure you're doing each time, is you need to make sure that all of the layers are completely heat set before you start adding additional color. By doing that, you're going to have all of these really cool layers of color when you add the glaze on, and you're going to see all of those colors come through once you have the glaze added on there. So right now it doesn't really look like much. Every time we heat set it, we kind of get this really dull look to it, and we're just kind of getting what looks like a kind of one blend of color. But once we bring this glaze in and start to add that, you're going to see this panel come to life. This is one of my favorite techniques. I just love the overall look of it. I just think it looks so magical when you bring that glaze in and really have that color come through that you've added with all of those layers. So I'm completely heat setting this now. I have it fully dry and I've cleaned off my craft mat so I have a clean area to work on. I'm now taking a distress blending tool and I'm just putting a foam piece on here. This is a brand new foam and I'm putting it right into the distress glaze. Now the jar is big enough that you can just put your blender tool right in there and just give a couple twists. You don't need a lot of the glaze for this to work. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to apply the glaze to my panel. And as I do this, you can see the magic happen. You can see these beautiful colors start to come through. We get this vibrant blue background and we have all of these different splotches of color because of all of the layers that we've added and heat set in between. So I'm just going to continue to take my ink blending tool and go around this entire panel. I'm just going in a circular motion and I'm spreading that glaze all over that color and it just comes to life more and more as we move the glaze around. And this is the glaze that I put onto my ink blending tool when I started. I'm not adding any additional on there. The little bit that we added at first is going to be enough to do this entire panel. So I just flipped it around and I'm continuing to go across here and add all of that glaze on there. And then once I'm done, you're going to see that we have this beautiful background and it has this really cool water effect, which is why I really wanted to do it for this look, because now it looks like we have this neat pool. We have all of these different colors. We have a little bit of that turquoise and then we have these really dark blues coming through. And now that I have the background done, I just kind of used a paper towel to take off the extra glaze. And now I'm going to use the pool Die-namics. I'm going to figure out where I want to die cut from this panel. And then I'm just going to run this through my die cutting machine. And you can use the leftover pieces for other card designs, so I will set that aside and save it for later. But now you can see I have my pool shape cut out of the water, and this is what's going to be on the inside area of our pool. Now to create the background piece where we're going to insert the pool, we need to also cut that pool shape from our panel. So I have a white cardstock panel here and I'm just going to position my pool on the panel where I want it to die cut. And you can see I kind of have it going off of the edge. So I'm just going to run this through my die cut machine as well. And then the blue water that we've already die cut is going to fit perfectly inside of this. And one of the really cool things I love about this pool die is when you die cut it from the cardstock, you end up with this really cool kind of embossed edge, which kind of looks like the cement that's going around the pool edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully take some Copic markers and I'm just going to color in that area where we've got that embossed detail. So I just took a really light gray at first and then I'm going to go in with a darker and medium gray and I'm going to add a little bit more color just to kind of give it a little bit of a highlight. So I'm just going to go around with those darker colors. I'm going to come in with the medium color and blend that out. And then I'm going to finish it off by adding in the lightest color to really blend all of that together. And what that's doing is it's just giving us that cement barrier outside of our pool just to really make it look realistic. Okay, so once I finish this up and we have the pool colored and now we have the water created that's going to go on the inside, now we need to get our characters that we're going to add to the pool. So I have this new stamp set and I'm going to take one of the little mermaids out of here. There's 4 different mermaid characters that are all very adorable and they would work really well with the pool die. I'm going to use this one here as well as a little crab and a couple of seashells. So I'm going to stamp these out onto some Neenah Solar White 110 pound cardstock, and I'm going to use extreme black ink to do my stamping since I am going to color these in with Copic markers. I am using my Mini Misty to do my stamping just so I can double stamp and get a really nice solid black outline. And then I flipped the panel over and did another stamp of the seashell since I knew I wanted to use 2 on the design. Once I have them stamped out, I can go ahead and grab my Copic markers and start to color in my images. So I just started off with some purple colors here to color in her little bathing suit and the star in her hair. And then I didn't leave all of the coloring in. You can see I've already got the little crab colored with some reds. I just did very simple coloring with a few shades of color. And then I die cut these all with the dies. And I'm not going to fully use the whole body of the mermaid. So you can see there I didn't finish fully coloring her at the bottom. We are going to actually cut part of her off to make it look like she's down in the pool. I also cut out some pieces from the beach scene builder. I'm going to use those and color them in with Copic markers to add them to my scene. Now before I start to assemble everything, I want to add some ink to the background. I want to have a sky area as well as a ground area, which is going to be green for grass. And I know the perspective is a little bit off because of how the pool die cuts into the background. But rather than create a scene where we're kind of looking at it from up above, I wanted it to look like we were kind of looking at the pool and we're going to add a palm tree. So like I said, I know the perspective is a little bit off, but I really love how it turned out regardless. So I did add the Peacock Feathers ink to the background in one solid color first, and then I took a mini cloud edges stencil and I added a little bit of cloud detail to the sky. And then I flipped the panel over and now I'm adding color to the bottom, which is going to be the ground area. Now I'm not doing any masking on the pool piece here. I'm letting the ink kind of go over top of that cement color just because I know it's not really going to show through, so I didn't really worry about it. Okay, so now that we have the panel finished, I put some liquid glue on the back of it, and this is cut exactly to a A2 size card, so it's 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, so it's going to fully cover our card front. And then I added that panel to the card front, and I'm going to do the same with the pool. I'm just putting liquid glue on the back of the pool piece, and I'm making sure to fully cover this piece because since we added all of that water and did a lot of that technique on there, it did warp it a tiny bit, so I really want to make sure it's secure on the card front. Now once I have it on there, you can see I've got my scissors here and I'm cutting part of the Little Mermaid's body off. And that's because I want it to look like part of her body is actually under the water. So I did trim it off there and then I'm going to glue her directly onto the water. I decided not to use any foam adhesive. I wanted everything flat to the water. So I glued her on there first, and now I'm going to take all of the pieces that are going to create our scene and start to add them to the card as well. So the first thing I did was added the palm tree, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the little pieces of the palm tree that layer over top. These have foam adhesive on the back of them, which is going to give it a little bit of dimension and just kind of help it really stand out on the card. I love this palm tree die. I just think it's so fun, and it's really nicely sized for the scene that we're creating, so it worked really well. The last thing I'm going to do here is just add the coconuts to the center of the palm tree. So I just use some liquid glue and then just use my tweezers to lift those up there and put them on. Since they are teeny tiny, it's a little bit hard to do with your fingers, so I definitely find that tweezers helps in kind of getting them set where you want them. And then I just press down really well to make sure that they adhered onto that glue, and then we can go ahead and work on the rest of our scene. So now I need to place our little crab and our little seashells, but I wasn't sure where I wanted to put them. So I decided I wanted to get the sentiment on there first, just so I kind of had placement and knew where the sentiment was going to go. So I heat embossed the sentiment on black cardstock and die cut it with the Skinny Strips Die-namics. I put that onto the card front there, right underneath where she's swimming, and overlapped it where the pool is. And then I added the little crab on the side of the pool, and I'm going to go ahead and add some clouds to the sky. I also colored a little green piece there that looks like a little bush in front of the palm tree just because I thought it needed to be grounded a little bit more. It looked like it was kind of floating in space. And then once I have that done, I just took the last 2 seashells here and I put one directly onto the card, and I'm adding one with foam adhesive just to give it a little bit more dimension near the bottom area. And then the last thing I need to do is just add a little bit of details to the different pieces on my scene. So I'm using a white gel pen and I'm adding some highlights to the palm tree leaves as well as little coconuts. I'm also going to add some highlights to the seashells, the little crab, and the little mermaid. And then I also decided to add a little bit of polka dot detail to her little water wings. I thought it would add a playful look. I then added a little dot of white on her cheeks, and then I finished off the card by doing a little bit of white dot detail in the grass area. And then once I have that done, our card is complete, and we have this really fun mermaid pool scene where we've created this really fun pool effect with the Distress Oxide Glaze technique. I hope today's video gave you some ideas on ways that you can use our new swimming pool dynamics. If you're interested in the supplies I've used, I've linked them in the video description below. As always, I appreciate you being here for another video, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks so much for watching.